Hi everybody and welcome back. My name's Alison, the online piano and the online violin tutor. This is my new Learn to Play the Violin book 2 and it is a follow-on from my original violin lessons 1 to 10. They'll be linked directly underneath this video. This book is going to teach you the next stages in your learning and it is aimed at beginners who have already learned the basics or everything that's in those videos 1 to 10 and you just want to progress on further and properly. It is available to purchase here. There'll be a link just coming up here. I will also put a link directly in the description bar underneath. And like all of my books, this book is 100% downloadable. In other words, it's an ebook. So I printed this out at home using my home printer, and then I just bound it together using my spiral binder. So this book also comes with a songbook too as well. So the 10 pieces in here will contain all of the skills and all the techniques and everything that you will have learned from this book. So if you want to progress on to the next stages in your learning, then grab your copy of the books and let's get going. Okay, so we've just done quite a bit of playing in lesson 11. Moving on to lesson 12, there's going to be no demonstration and no playing in here. I'm sorry about that, it's just all theory, but it's really important theory. You do need to know this before you move on. If you don't know this, then you cannot move on, and that is just life. So we're just going to do a little bit of theory. Most of the information is in this book, so you can read all the information that's written in here. I'm just going to kind of nutshell it and just add in anything that I think I need to. So starting off with, it talks about time signatures, note values, bar lines and key signatures. So it talks about time signatures. To be perfectly honest, I think you've got everything you need there. I don't actually think I need to explain anything about the time signatures. You've then moving on to the next page, you've got note values. And these are all the different types of notes that you've got here. So if you have a look at the chart at the bottom of the page, it tells you that you've got 1, 2, 3, 4. We've got 5 different types of note here. And tells you what the note name is in the US, so in America, and it tells you what the note name is in the UK. So they do have slightly different note names. I don't know why that is. I guess it just varies from country to country. So for me, I would call the notes a quaver, crotchet, minim, dotted minim, and semi-breve. You guys that live in the US would probably know those notes if you are familiar with them as eighth note, quarter note, half note, dotted half note, and whole note. When I do talk about the notes, I do try and mention both the UK and the American equivalent, just so you guys in America understand me as well, but it really doesn't matter at all. Everybody's talking about the same note, so it just depends on what country you're in. Underneath that, it tells you how many beats each note is worth. Basically, you need to suck this page up and remember it. So that's why I put this little table at the bottom, so you can literally sit and remember those. So it's up to you if you want to do like get one of those bits of paper on a notepad, draw out the note and have do one of those flashcard games. It's completely up to you, but you need to be able to look at the note, remember what it's called and how many beats it's worth. And that's very important that you do that, because when you come to playing pieces later on in the book, when we get to actually playing songs, you're going to know exactly how many beats to hold notes for, not having to keep going back to this page to refer back to it. So next page, semiquavers or 16th notes. So they weren't mentioned on the previous page, but they are now. And these are faster notes. So we just play them a little bit quicker. Before I go any further, I just wanted to actually mention that these notes that we've got in here, you will have seen or it does say that you'll have recognised all these notes from the exercises that you may well have done from the original 1 to 10 video lessons. The semiquavers or 16th notes on this page are new for this book. There's a whole explanation about them there, and a bit at the top just shows you what they look like and what they might look like in various forms as well. And I've actually done like a little note tree diagram as well, so you can see where the note, you can physically see where the notes sit in terms of how long you hold them for, from the longest note at the top, and then the next 2 notes you don't hold them for quite so many, and so on and so forth. Okay, so next I would explain more about the rhythm as we go later on in the book, but at the moment this is kind of like an FYI for your information, and also suck it up and remember it kind of information. So the next part is bar lines, and you need to know about those as well, and that kind of goes hand in hand with the time signature at the very start of lesson 12. And so there's some information there about it, and there's also a test as well that you can do, and there's the answers to those tests, to that test, is in the back of the book. So I don't think I need to go through and add anything here because everything that I want to say is pretty much written down in this book anyway. Okay, key signatures. So this is quite a big one that gets everybody confused. I'd recommend that you would read all of this information in here. I mean, it's pretty... there isn't anything per se that I really want to add to it because I've kind of explained it quite well in this book, to be perfectly honest with you. What I would say though is that you just have to learn it. So the information that you've got here with all these key signatures actually relate to all the scales that we've done. So if you think of the scale as the physical form of the key signature, that might help to make more sense. So not every single music is in the key of C, or not every single music is in a different key. And basically what that means is if a piece of music is in a different key, it just sort of means it has a slightly different flavour. So maybe it's slightly higher or maybe it's slightly lower. It just means that it just gives it a slightly different flavour depending on what the composer wants to get out of that particular song. And there are lots of keys. There are 24 keys in total. We don't obviously learn all of those because a lot of them get really complicated and this, that and the other. So these are the next bunch of keys that we need to learn, and these are all, you'll notice that we've just done in lesson 11 all of the scales that go with this key signature. And inadvertently, without you even realizing, for example, the first one of D major has 2 sharps in it, which is an F sharp and a C sharp. The information does say that later on, but the 2 sharps that you've got there, when you played your D major scale, you will have played those 2 sharps. So what that means is when you see a piece of music with those 2 sharps in and you recognise, oh yeah, that's D major, but where do I put my fingers on the violin? Well, if you know your D major scale, which you should do from lesson 11, which is why you must learn each piece before you move on, then wherever you put your fingers on the violin when you did D major scale is exactly where you put your fingers when you're playing a piece of music in D major. But you probably won't make that realisation. You're probably just automatically doing it. You'll probably automatically do it. So what is a good idea to do is when you figured out what key a piece of music is in, just to quickly run through that scale that's associated with, just to remind you whether your fingers are back or stretched and this, that and the other, and that will help you. So basically you've just got to learn these key signatures, and what I've put on the next page, test 3, is a key signature test, which is here. So kind of try and do it without looking at the previous page, and the answers to this are at the back of the book. Okay, so the next part is how to tell what key a piece of music is in. Again, I'm not really going to read through that, everything. I can't think of anything else that I really need to add to that. And also, why are there different sharps and flats in the scales and not in the key signatures? So again, I've pretty much addressed everything in there. I don't really think that I need to explain anything else on that little bit. To be honest with you, I've kind of included this in here because it's just the way I roll. It's just the way I teach. I like my students to be informed about things. I get a lot of questions with people saying, what does this mean? What does that mean? What's harmonic? What's monodic? What's the difference? How do I tell what key pieces are in? And things like that. So I guess this does technically satisfy an answer to your question. Whether you understand it or not is another situation, but I like you guys to be informed about everything. It's just the way I teach. I can't help it. I just like everybody to know everything about everything, but obviously in a recommended order, so I don't, I'm not going to go around teaching you things that you don't need to know, just things that you do need to know. And this is one of those things that you kind of do need to know. So I wouldn't expect you to understand and assimilate the information and actually be able to use it in a practical application. But at least you guys kind of, you know it, it's there, it's gone into your subconscious. If the question ever arises, you can come back and read this. As you learn more and more and get better and better, this information will start to stick and the penny will start to drop and you'll start to get it. But I really wanted to include it in there because it is something, it's I feel that you would feel cheated if you didn't know the information. So do not stress if you do not understand this, because this is always going to be here and you can always go back and reread this information as you learn more and as you get towards the end of the book. So that's the end of lesson 12. I'm sorry this has been less practical and more theory, but it's all really important. So I will see you in lesson 13.